So yeah, man. Okay, cool. This is it. Episode 1.1. Conjuring. How you feel? How you doing today?
The devil made me do it. Which, if we're just gonna get right into it, I don't even understand why that's the title. I mean, I get it. I watched the movie, so I get it. But what's wrong with Conjuring 3? I don't know why we had to do this unnecessary subtitle. It just feels odd. But
It
anyway,
does.
I'm doing good. It's a nice, beautiful Saturday out here in the state of Oklahoma. So I got some nice sunshine after a long week of rain. But yeah, things are going well. How about you?
Nice, man. Yeah, I'm doing well too. I agree with you. I mean, the funny thing is like the Conjuring the subtitle. So the funny thing is like the subtitle actually I feel like cheapens it a little bit. Kind of makes it feel like one of the Conjuring spinoffs, which it kind of felt like. It kind of felt like this doesn't feel like the canonical part of the trilogy. Initial thoughts. What did you think of the movie?
So I thought it was good. I didn't know that this was possible, but I got a little fatigued when I got to The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. And I'm just going to start calling it The Conjuring 3 from here on out.
Yeah, we could do
don't
that.
At me. So the first, essentially it's turned into like a sort of procedural, right? You're just sort of getting a new case from Ed and Lorraine. And like we just sort of stick with the case and then we solve the case and that's the thing. It feels like an episode of like SVU or something. So I watched the first Conjuring earlier this week, the second Conjuring later this week. And then when it was time for the Conjuring 3, like just those same beats started to play out and it didn't find a way to like be fresh and innovate on those things like the previous two had. So overall I was just kind of like, yeah, this was good. Good, not great, essentially is how I would sum it up. I think it's certainly missing the directorial like sort of flair and innovation and like style of James Wan, who did the previous two. But overall, I thought it was good. I like Patrick Willis. I like Vera Farmiga, and I think that I think the story was like, I don't know, not the story, but like they're not fighting a demon this time around. It's like just the actual devil. Yeah. So there's some things that like I'll be pointing out when we get into like the previous two films that like really stand out as like sort of a highlight for me that were just absent in this film because of the adversary. So yeah.
Yeah. That's actually a great place to start because the Conjuring 3 kind of it's a departure from the first two, and thematically and in structure. It's like kind of a detective, not detective, but it's like a murder mystery almost, where they have to like Ed and Lorraine have to go around collecting clues. They do a side quest at one point.
Except for there's no mystery. Yeah. The devil made me do it. It's like, what's the mystery? We know. You gave us the answer. Go ahead.
No, you're right. It's like, you know, I can appreciate what they did. At least it was interesting. I mean, it was interesting to a point. You know, like the going out and watching, or going out and like exploring, following the breadcrumbs, like going to these different locations. I thought were great. I thought it was fun. But the thing is, the story itself wasn't very interesting. I mean, it kind of goes to your point. It's like, so we already know the devil's doing it, right? But what else is there really to explore about the world? And also, what about the characters are we really interested in at this point? You know, like we know Ed and Lorraine. There isn't much to their relationship, honestly, other than the fact that they love each other a whole lot. You know, like
and got strong faith.
Yeah, and they have exactly
unshaken in their faith.
It's like what else can we? There's no real probing to get deeper in this movie, which I thought would be an opportunity, considering the fact it's the third one. We've gone through three of these Conjuring films already, you know, and I think the film, it felt like it didn't quite know what it wanted to be. Like I don't think the tone kind of stayed consistent, because when they're going out and doing stuff for the other police chief, when they're going out and learning about the occult, there's no like horror element to it. It feels like just a regular old movie. And so The Conjuring 1 and 2 we're always able to keep that fear, keep that there's like a demon present and you're in danger at all times. Half the movie, Ed and Lorraine are not in danger at all. It's really this poor kid Arnie. Like, he's the one getting screwed over. He's over he's in jail. Like, from the get go, we already know, all right, he's going to be out of the picture because he's going to be in jail the whole time. So he's just being there suffering with this demon possessing him, and then Ed and Lorraine are just going around, collecting clues. So it just kind of felt disjointed a bit to me. Definitely not as streamlined as the first two.
Sure.
Yeah. How did you think compared to the first two? Did you like the first two? What did you think of it?
Yeah, no, I for sure like the first two. Especially the first one. It comes out and it's part of like a sort of fresh new wave of horror that started to take place in like the early 2010s. There was just a lot of movies that were coming out that were like really good horror movies. Like they had a remake for Let the Right One In called Let Me In that came out I think like early 2010 maybe.
I remember that.
And like living up to that, like the original was hard, but like they did a really good job. Taylor Ducker versus Evil I think came out early 2010s. Loved Ones, Cabin in the Woods, like there was just like a big sort of fresh, and of course like Insidious as well, which is sort of like a sister film I feel like to The Conjuring, both in like same director. Patrick Willis is there as well.
Yeah.
Or excuse me, Patrick Wilson.
Yeah.
So like it was like exciting to have like all of these movies to like watch, talk about, compare, see how they're playing off of one another. The Conjuring like went back to sort of like classic sort of horror. And like where Cabin in the Woods is like doing like a parody and like very self-aware version of horror. But it was nice to see like a very like sort of period piece, sort of like mid-century, I think. I don't know, I'm not good with time periods. But like in the set design and like in the characters and like their motives and how they go about accomplishing their goals, it's all like very of a time, and I really appreciated that. And it found a way to like be innovative and fresh and new, especially in the like just how alive the camera was. It's very kinetic as it like moves through the house, especially when they're opening the scenes of the movies and moving in. Like that's a like really like the camera's just like always on the move.
Yeah.
And then that sort of continues to play into itself when we get into like some of the horror reveals and some of the scares. There's a couple sequences that are just like, I saw them and I was like, I don't think I've seen that before, like in the genre. So I was like really high on the first one. I didn't like, it was before the time of like everything turns into IP and into franchise.
Yeah.
So I didn't expect like a sequel. But then we got The Conjuring 2, and it wasn't more of the same, which I appreciated. Obviously, we're like in a different country, still focused on a family. So those beats felt the same. But it's still like, I think I'm a bit higher on it than most. I still really liked it. But I have some just thoughts and notes that I took down while watching. But I wanted to ask you real quick before we go into the first two Conjuring movies, how did you watch The Conjuring 3? Did you watch it on HBO or did you go to the theater?
Oh, I saw it on HBO.
Okay.
Yeah, just plopped on my couch. Yeah, how about you?
Yeah. I went to the theater.
Oh,
and so
really?
that was also different because like Conjuring 1 and 2, I'm like, I'm taking notes, getting ready.
Yeah.
Conjuring 3, I was like trying to like make mental notes. But I was just curious how
I saw it on HBO and I took I was able to like relax, eat some food, kick my feet up. I paused it a couple times. Like,
yeah,
totally a different movie going experience, I think, than what was probably intended for the third film installment. Yeah. Well, did you feel anything when you were in theaters? Was it different? How was it different, you think, from watching the first two at home?
Yeah, I mean, just from like just breezing past all the nuts and bolts things, like bigger screen, better sound, all of that stuff certainly is just a preference of mine to see things in the theater. For horror, it's interesting to like feel the tension and the energy in the room. And like it's noticeable when the room settles and gets quiet and like the audience begins to get sucked in to like the suspense and the thrill of the film. Yeah. And then there's also like the levity, like do the jokes land, like so you can like hear the audience laugh. And I went with a couple friends, so like there are some whispers between us as we sort of like begin to unravel the plot and make fun of it at certain points.
Yeah.
So just like getting back to that sort of communal experience. Even like in the past like year and a half now of quarantine, like when I watched movies, I tried to watch them with people and sometimes specific people so I could get an interesting take or perspective, because that's just like how I progress and formulate sort of some of my opinions. So if it's in theaters, I'm going. At this point, especially since like, you know, things are becoming more safe, not, you know, as safe as they can be, but this was something I definitely wanted to see in theaters to get that experience. So it certainly, I feel like, made it a better film. If I had saw it at home just alone by myself, I probably would have been a little bit more down on it. But
Yeah.
it was fun seeing it in
Yeah,
theaters.
totally. I mean, I actually think that you're right. I probably would have enjoyed it more in theaters also, because to me, when I watched it, it felt very much like an Annabelle or like a side, like just some. It felt like a cheaper movie than it was, and I feel like that's partly the atmosphere for sure. And also, I think my expectations were, I think, a little disappointed. Like my favorite of the two Conjuring is the second one. I think, I watched them very, you know, back to back. So it was fresh in my mind, and I had like an idea for like what this tone was going to be. What's the energy going to be? I mean, this is a new demon entity thing. So I think I was just also disappointed, and I feel like that wasn't helped by the fact that I was like sitting in my pajamas in my living room, you know? So
Homeboy from Office Space, what's his name?
what is his name?
Ron Livingston.
Yes.
Just like that's a hairpiece. That is a hairpiece. I was like, Office Space for me is at least referenced, I don't know, at least 2 to 3 times a week, just because I work in an office.
Yeah.
So like the case of the Mondays like is inevitably like gonna come up, or like troubles with the printer. It's like it's gonna happen. So like when I saw him, I was like, wait a minute, I forgot he was in it. So honestly, he does kind of take me out of it just a little bit, because I don't know, it was just strange seeing him in this role. But I mean, he does good, and I think it does help elevate the performance of the mom.
By comparison,
the way he plays his role.
Yeah.
Well, not even like in quality, but like he's not like loud or eccentric. He's like very much like, I mean, he's the father of like what 5 girls and a wife. So it's just like, you know, he just is very good at like, you know, trying to keep things stable. He's the rock. He's the foundation. So yeah, but I remember when we first see his face, I was like, wait a minute. But yeah, what else do I have here? Okay, yeah, weird children's games. So they're playing the clap game, and I don't want to clap too close to the mic.
Sure.
But like, what is it with like horror movies and weird children's games? It's like completely unsettling and terrifying. Like inherently, these games are not like good, fun, great, anything. They're just scary. So when you put them in a horror movie, it just makes things worse. Like the song for Freddy Krueger is just like, who is singing that? Why are like 7-year-old girls just like singing that on the schoolyard? It's terrible. So they're playing this clap game in the house that they just moved into. They don't know where nothing's at. They're still unpacking. Like everything's just scattered. So I didn't have any weird children's games. I'm an only child. Did you have any weird like games that you played with your siblings? You break out the Ouija board?
You know, not really. I remember when I was like in first or second grade, we would do during recess we would do Ring Around the Rosie, right? And like Duck Duck Goose. I think the thing about those games is that I would play them with other people. Like I'd be playing with other kids in my class. So it wasn't all inherently that terrifying if I was in a house with just me and my brother. Dude, not gonna happen. No way. No, we're playing N64 for sure. There's no way we're doing clap.
Yeah.
We're doing the clap game.
One thing, this applies for both the Conjuring 1 and 2, but I think it's better executed in the first one, is I really like the device of obtaining the demon's name to establish power over it, and that's how you cast it out. And in the first one, that's not explained at all, like that is the solution and that's how they have to do it. What they are uncovering is like the story of the house and like the mother, she possesses the mother to sacrifice or like to kill the child, and like that's they come to that in pieces, but that's like eventually what they come to, and that's what they're trying to prevent. And so like solving that and like unraveling that was like really cool, and that's the part that they show you, and it's a very much like show not tell. But especially like when you get to like when he calls out the demon's name, I think it's Bathsheba, and like she's like crawling through like the walls of the house, and you just get that great like turn cut shot, and it's like completely unsettling. And so like I love that part because it keeps the viewer in an active state. Like what's the lore, and like how do we like solve this? Like what's the remedy? How do we like set the spirit free, so to speak? And the second one, I feel like they do the same thing. Like she's gotta like get the name of the demon, but you'll have to help me out with this because I think you said you like the second one a little bit better. So Lorraine is like sitting with her daughter, and like she has her vision, and she sees the nun, and then she goes to the room with the painting, and like she starts like scribbling on her Bible, right?
Yes,
do you remember this scene? And so apparently like she scribbles the name, and like that comes back later,
right.
and she gives her the name. So what I didn't understand about that is like, why did the nun give Lorraine her name? Cause like like I said before, I love like that as a device to like, that's how you beat the demon. You got to find out the name, you got to find out the story, and all those things come together, and you got your solution. And so I loved everything leading up to it. It's like, wait, did the nun just like snitch on herself? Like I'm not understanding why she gave her own name. Yeah. So what is that a device? Is that a thing that you like in movies, or in exorcism, I guess?
Yeah.
Movies,
you know, I think you're right that like the thing about the Conjuring films is that they are very ambitious films. I don't think on the surface we really appreciate just how complicated these movies are. Like on top of the stuff that's going on like demonically with people getting possessed and like the scares and stuff, there's actually a lot of lore that they kind of cram into these films. Each of them, all three of them have like a ton of lore for these demons and like evil spirits and the people who are then victims to it, and then those people become demons and then possess the regular, you know what I mean? There's like layers of lore going on. So when it came to Lorraine, when it comes to like explaining all that in a convincing way or in a way that's like useful to the story, I feel like sometimes they drop the ball. Like you said, the first movie didn't explain that they needed to get the name at all. Like, and that would have been super helpful to know. I think by the time we get to the end, the whole exorcism part, it's kind of like, I'm pretty good with this. Like they need to exorcise the woman to save everyone. Cool. Okay. We can move on. You know, I don't think they needed to get too much into it. The second one gets an extra step where there's an actual antagonist, like an antagonist that's like this nun character, right? And I feel like, well, first of all, I just want to say this, like, why would Ed paint this picture of this horribly awful demon and then hang it up in his room? Who would hang up that painting in the wall?
Look, I'll put it like this. None of my people are doing that. Okay. I mean, I don't understand it. I don't understand it. You done painted the picture of the demon, and you done framed it, got it polished and everything. For what? It's because they don't make smart decisions. And I know that this is like inherent to horror movies, but like, why do you keep bringing home relics of all this evil stuff? Yeah. Why do you just have a room full of all the evil possessed stuff that you battle? Like, they not just gonna rise up. Like they not just going one day and be like, all right, it's us now. Let's just go get them.
We outnumber you.
It doesn't make any sense. Oh my gosh, it doesn't make any sense.
You know, another thing that doesn't make sense in these movies. This drove me crazy because they did it in every single one. Every single film where there's a kid getting possessed or someone getting possessed, they always like put the kid to bed and then leave him alone in the room. Yeah. And that's when they strike. That's when the demon strikes. Yeah, when it's coming after you.
When people start to go solo on adventures and excursions, like after things have gone down, it's just bad decision making. It's just bad decision making.
It's like you should know by now. Like, like if the kid this kid's getting possessed, you're gonna put him to bed. What do you think's gonna happen to him when you're gone? It's gonna possess him again.
One thing I wish they would build into these films to maybe help with some of these issues is like, I don't know why Ed and Lorraine would be presented a case and they'd be like, yeah, let's check it out and gather some evidence. Like, haven't y'all seen enough? Like, didn't y'all just exorcise a demon in the last movie? It's like, so like, if we just got like one or two primers, if like, yeah, this one didn't turn out to be an actual demon, or like, you know, not like Scooby-Doo level of like, I was the janitor, but like there doesn't appear to be any reason for them to doubt ever. It's like it's always the demons. I don't want to switch topics like too far ahead, like, but in Fallen this happens with Denzel. He's like, yo, I just seen this, like, it was weird. The homeboy, like, he came back to life and he was inhabiting all these bodies. So he goes to home chick. He's like, what's happening? She was like, it's demons and angels. He's like, stop playing. It's like, you just explained to her yourself what you saw. Like, why are we dealing with like skepticism anymore? It's like, we need to accelerate this. We all need to get on board.
Let's move this
and start to find a solution. Help me out again with Conjuring 2. Like, what's Bill's deal? Like, what's his deal? What's his MO? I don't understand what's happening with Bill. He's an old dude that used to live there, and he likes to sit in his chair and watch TV. So like I get it. Like, I got a good chair I like to sit in too and watch movies, but like, you don't need to possess a little girl to like continue to do that in the afterlife. So I don't, like, his motives are not malicious at all. Like, he just kind of wants to kick it. So I don't. Right. And I guess like we sort of get an explanation that like he's just like a pawn and like a vehicle for like the nun, who I think even gets a spinoff movie. But I didn't understand like the bill of it all. Help me out.
Yeah, you know, the funny thing is Bill was like my favorite part of The Conjuring 2. I feel like he's much more of an interesting antagonist than the nun is, just because he's personally invested. You know, I know why he doesn't like them. They're in his house. He wants them out of their house. Plain and simple. He's gonna fuck with them until they get out of his fucking house. You know what I mean? And which I liked. And they did he ended up being a red herring, where it was like, it turned out that, oh, he's actually not the bad guy. He's actually getting possessed or like, you know, condemned or something by this nun who we don't really know anything about other than she's a demon thing. It's
just the demons are
exactly.
Demons. Where does it end?
Exactly. Which is kind of like they spent the first hour making us scared of Bill, and then it's like, oh, now we feel bad for Bill, I guess, because he just had a heart attack and wants to die and won't. Can't let him out. You know, I don't know. I really liked him though as a character. I mean, I think that one scene. You know the scene I'm talking about where they're talking to her and she's like, you have to turn away. You know, he's only going to come out if you turn away. And I was like, they did some great special effects there, man. I'd seen this movie a couple times already, and I watched it again, and I still got goosebumps. Like, it was still like really unnerving to watch her like just transform.
When I'm watching movies like this, specifically in this genre, I'm rarely looking at the center of the frame because it's all about misdirection, right? I'm trying to anticipate like what's in the corner that I'm supposed to spot out just a little bit earlier than the director wants me to, you know. What's going to happen, like, you know, when you have the classic sort of closing the mirror cabinet shot, you know, you're up brushing your teeth, washing your face, you close the mirror, and then bang, the image is like, you know, and now that's starting to be played upon where they close the mirror and it's not there, and then like they turn around and it is, you know. So, but you're right, in that scene specifically with Bill, it's not about Patrick's face who's in focus. It's about Bill. Who's like coming to in the frame. So it's really cool.
Yeah, the misdirection stuff. I mean, I think the Conjuring 2 has even more like demonic, explosive action and special effects than even the first one. And the first one was a ton. It had a ton. It was chock full of just like chairs getting thrown across the room, glass breaking, stuff getting flown, like all kinds of stuff moving on. And then The Conjuring 2 takes it to another level. So there's even more of like people floating and like chairs and beds shaking. And so I feel like the visual spectacle of the Conjuring 2 and the Conjuring 1 are really satisfying. And just to bring it back to Conjuring 3 just for a second, is like I feel like that spectacle was really lost. Like they really didn't have a lot of opportunity to give us anything interesting to look at. And like to feel that this demon, or I guess this curse, is like a threat. You know, like we kind of knew that something was going on because Arnie's possessed or something, but like there wasn't really a feeling of like it could happen at any moment, it can come get you at any second, you know?
Yeah.
So thanks everyone for tuning in to our special episode of Black and Bald. It's special because we're doing it and it's our episode. That's why it's special. We're special. So get ready for our next episode. F9 is coming at you. Till then, have a great life. Enjoy yourselves and check out Pop Dust for all your media consumption. Have a good night.
And Zamunda.